Hi, I'm Brittany. Welcome back to The Bee's Business. Join me for another review in my Children's Literature Review series. My goal in creating this series is to help parents and fellow educators find titles in children's literature that are motivational, inspirational, educational, or a combination of these. And in order to keep my review series consistent, I follow the same 5, sometimes 6-step review process. Today I am reviewing for you The Smart Cookie from the #1 New York Times best-selling team, Jory John and Pete Oswald. I appreciate the inside cover of this text. Looking at all of these little characters gives me an insight into what the rest of the story holds. And then we come to the title page. To Mom, JJ. For Carm, PO. Short but sweet dedications. Greetings, I'm a cookie. I live in a bakery on a street corner near a river. Come on in. On this very first page, we're meeting our main character, and we're getting a little bit of a lay of the land of what this story is going to entail. I'll jump ahead to the overall purpose of this text, and it is to remind kids in particular that everyone is a smart cookie, and we all learn in different ways and have different strengths, and that's a wonderful thing that should be celebrated. This story has such a cute and creative way of going about delivering that message. There is a good amount of text in this story, which is not always my favorite in a children's book, but this is done very well, and I didn't feel like it was too wordy. Each of the pages is very detailed. We're meeting some of the other characters in the text now, and then we're getting to the problem of the story. For a long time, I didn't feel comfortable speaking up or sharing my ideas. I didn't feel like a smart cookie. I wanted to be a cookie who knew all the answers, a cookie who felt confident in a group, a cookie who said aha when solving a puzzle. Like this, aha! Almost everyone likes cookies, so making the main character a cookie and the other characters other sweet treats is a great way to make this story relatable for kids. The story is well thought out, from the teacher, whose name is Miss Biscotti, to the schoolhouse where the cookie went to school. It's a gingerbread house. And we just dive a little further into the problem. Our main character shares that he or she didn't get good grades, didn't like to raise their hand because they couldn't think of answers as fast as the others, and they felt like they were the last to finish most tests. It wasn't because I didn't care, and it wasn't because I didn't try. I'd get distracted and mess up, even though I knew the material. Those were the most frustrating moments of all. That sort of struggle is very realistic. It happens to kids all the time. Because this struggle that our cookie is facing is made so relatable for kids, the story is going to mean that much more. Once I misspelled the word dough. That was rough. Another time I added when I meant to subtract. As a 4th grade teacher, I see little mistakes like this all the time, and while I know they're not a big deal, to kids they can feel like a really big deal, particularly if they're mistakes that are made in front of their peers. So highlighting that in this story and the cookie showing us just how much it impacted him or her is a great way to just remind kids that these mistakes happen and it's okay if you feel strongly about them. We have a page highlighting the cookie's imagination and how he or she is imagining being in a different place and it feeling a lot like being on a raft and completely lost at sea, with even sharks swimming about. We have some illustrations and some words that show the sadness that the cookie is going through during this period of time in its life. And then we hit a turning point where Miss Biscotti, the teacher of the cookie, assigns a task. I would like you to create something completely original, she announced. It can be anything you want. Please bring it to class tomorrow. And initially the cookie is feeling rather nervous about this because there were no other directions and creating anything felt a little overwhelming. We see some attempts that didn't go so well, but then the cookie has that aha moment that in the very beginning of the story he or she was saying they wish they could have. Suddenly I had an idea. I decided to write something original, a poem. And we do get a look into how the cookie came up with this idea to write a poem, and I think that's really great that it's not just this magical solution where, poof, the cookie had an idea. The cookie was looking out the window feeling discouraged and frustrated that he or she could not think of an idea, and the story tells us, I stared out the window and watched the rain hit the river. There was something mesmerizing about the water, how it moved in such a chaotic way, swirling around and around. yet ultimately figuring out exactly where it needed to go. And that is when the aha moment happens. So we were able to see that just from an ordinary task, staring out the window as he or she felt really frustrated, led to the creation of this poem, which is ultimately the original piece that the cookie decided to create for the assignment. I think this is great to point out to children that you can find your inspiration anywhere. Writing commences, time passes, and that night the cookie couldn't sleep, but it wasn't because he or she was nervous. Instead, it was because they were excited. I felt like I had really accomplished something. I felt smart. The story goes on to share with us a couple of examples of what classmates created, and the cookie says, "It was neat seeing how everyone was good at such different things." There we're getting to part of the main message of this story. And then it's the cookie's turn. The cookie shares just how nervous they are to get up there, but they do it. And in the end, everybody clapped and cheered. I promise you this, I'll never ever forget it. Miss Biscotti was beaming. "No one but you could have written that poem," she said. "It was completely original." Aha! I had done it. I created something and shared it with the world. Well, my world at least. This part is really special to me because this is something that I have seen firsthand as a teacher and how powerful it can be for a child. Later that afternoon, Miss Biscotti handed me a note. It said that I should keep on writing no matter what. That means so much to me. I have seen firsthand just how much little notes like that can really boost a child's self-confidence and impact them over a long period of time. And the cookie goes on to share with us that after that, school felt a little bit different. Sure, some things still don't come as easily for me as they do for others, but now I know that you can be smart in many different ways. You don't have to have the answers to every question or suddenly be great at everything all at once. You just need a chance to try all kinds of things to find out who you are and what you like to do. As for me, I learned that I can write and I can think up great ideas, and I found plenty of other things I'm good at too. I no longer feel lost at sea. It's more like floating down a river, and the best part is, there's always more to learn. Because we're all smart cookies. A little bit of information about our author and illustrator. Jory, John, and Pete Oswald are the #1 New York Times best-selling creators of The Bad Seed, The Good Egg, The Cool Bean, The Couch Potato, and other books in their internationally acclaimed series. Jory and Pete also collaborated on the picture book That's What Dinosaurs Do and the New York Times best-selling The Good Egg Presents The Great Eggscape, and The Bad Seed presents The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky. Jory writes at home in Oregon, and Pete illustrates in his California studio. On the back of the text, we can see the cookie hanging out in their little jar. I love that they're avidly working at their desk, and we can see a little note here in the corner from Miss Biscotti. Probably that note that encouraged the cookie to continue to write no matter what. This is a very inspirational and motivational story that encourages kids to just keep trying. It reminds kids that they're not always going to be good at everything, and that's perfectly okay. Everyone succeeds in different areas and in different ways, and that's a beautiful thing to be celebrated. And it's okay when things don't always come easily to them. Tackling these emotional struggles can be very tricky, but I think that Jory and Pete have done an excellent job in tackling this particular topic. I'm rating this book a 10 out of 10, and I do not have any constructive criticism for this text. And surprisingly enough, this is actually the first story that I have checked out by them, but I am very intrigued at the others and hope to get my hands on them in the near future. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Children's Literature Review. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!